Science of the Southland number 266. I am Jack Purdy. I'm with Jake Grant. You are not Jack Grant. Despite, I mean, I fell into the same trap all of our friends fall into, which is calling each other by the wrong name because that's what happens when we have a one-letter difference in our names.
Jack, I cannot tell you how many times I've been called that. It was my grandfather's name, and then my cousin is named after him. So yeah, that's close enough. We
I
do all right with
If
that.
I ever have the power am granted the responsibility of naming a person, they will not be named Jake. Just to keep things clear and distinguishable, not because I don't like the name, but just to reduce confusion in
I,
whatever household if it's close to me.
every one of my siblings and cousins, other than my sister, has a J or G that sounds like J name. So I get
My goodness,
it.
my goodness.
Yeah.
Akshay is out of town, so we'll be back next week in all if all goes to plan. This week we've got baseball, we've got softball, some tennis stuff. We'll wrap up NCAA swim and dive because the men had their week out in Washington this past weekend. I think that's gonna cover most of it. We usually go 45 minutes. We'll see how this goes. We're gonna start with what we're calling spooky transfer news uh, regarding both basketball teams. Nathan George in the transfer portal. He is the most. Duncan Powell has declared for the NBA, or at least is testing the waters with the NBA draft. We don't. I don't know how Duncan Powell would get drafted in with this current class, but I guess he's just testing the waters and seeing what he may get on the global stage. If I had to guess, but
There's also only 40 dudes who get drafted, and I think
right,
that's something that I don't say enough when we talk about, college prospects and things like that. Even
right.
with the shorter MLB draft, way longer. Even with, seven rounds for the NFL, 8 rounds.
Seven for
That,
the NFL. Yeah, yeah.
that's 200 guys, five times as many getting drafted there.
Right, right. It's
Odds this happens are probably pretty small.
it's very low, but that's nonetheless that is what he's announced. But Nate George to the portal, that's the big kicker here. I mean, this year we finally saw a pretty good continuous stretch of very good basketball. Nate George led the ACC in assists. Like he had many different ways he could play for us, whether he just score or he just did the 0 points and 8 assists kind of games. Like he had his ways of playing for us. And next year, the recruiting class is massive next year in terms of potential, in terms of rankings and things like that. Um, so this is a blow. It's a very much a blow uh, for the men's team. I don't think. I mean, we also losing Lance Terry because he's graduating. I think the big
Yeah.
thing here is like, okay, does this mean Dongo's going to test the waters as well? Because that he is of anyone the most likely to get drafted. He has been said multiple times over about the guy that at least Damon said this and other people have been like, yeah, that dude's got the body and the wherewithal to with his track record to make the league eventually. It's just like when. Uh,
Yeah.
Probably not this year, all things considered, but it's like, okay, it's just not a good sign. Even knowing there is a lawless land of transfer portaling out there, you can test the waters and come back and things like that. It's still just like, okay, when we thought we had maybe a little bit of cohesion here, it's not cohesioning.
Well, and that's the thing too, is I think that it's easy to fall into the trap of like, guys these days or this, that, and the other thing. Like they're building to try and take the most of the system that they're dealing with, right? Like
Exactly, exactly.
you get 4-ish years of when you are most marketable to maximize your opportunities. So say what you will about coaching and scheme and things like that. It is a short-term world we live
Yeah,
in, especially in college basketball at the moment.
yeah,
And I think we all have our similar qualms with football, and I throw baseball in there too.
yeah,
It's just a
yeah,
little bit different because we sit maybe a mark higher in the totem pole, so you kind of stick your head in the sand a bit, or at least I do.
yeah.
But yeah, I think it's tough. You can't say, oh, well, like insert other guy would never do this from 5 years ago. Well, like they couldn't.
They
So
weren't in the
this,
yeah they weren't in this
yeah,
world. Who knows what a lot of the
yeah.
best players that were playing at lower schools like who knows like
Mhm.
Josh Allen. There is not a world that man finishes his quarterbacking career at Wyoming if he was a quarterback right now. Like just there is no chance he would have been somewhere in the Power Four because it
Or,
was obvious
or
he was that good.
or if he was, he'd be a unicorn.
Right, exactly. Or Wyoming would have paid every single cent that Wyoming has
Mhm.
to keep him on the team to win whatever. What are they? They're in the WAC, right?
Yeah.
That's what they're in. Yeah, so
Mountain
the
West.
Mountain West.
The
Yeah,
WAC doesn't have football anymore. It's
Oh,
very
wow.
strange.
I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Okay, how about that?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the case with men's basketball. On the women's side, it's arguably a little closer to much closer
Closer
on
to
the
worse.
worse. It's just objectively worse. Why am I skirting around this? Danny
Yeah.
Carnegie, sixth man of the year or sixth person of the year in the ACC, freshman of the year in the ACC, has declared for the transfer portal. Uh,
And
that's massively awful, massively
and I, and
awful.
I, And I called this spooky transfer news when I wrote it up before we talked about the fact that like there are four-ish other players that may or may not also be in the transfer portal. We just
Yes,
live in a world in which that information for softball, women's basketball, volleyball just isn't as publicized as, getting an ESPN alert about
right.
Nate George going to
It
the portal.
it
Like
isn't as
this
publicized.
is
Yeah,
big news
it
for
is.
Danny Carnegie to be going plus question mark other players. Like
And
that's a
let's bet.
lot.
And this gets reinforced by the fact that associate head coach and offensive coordinator Blanche Alverson got announced as the head coach at University of San Diego this week as well. So the main coach on Nell Fortner's bench, gone. Uh, which Blanche was going to be a head coach somewhere. Like this was an inevitable result for her career. So I, in no way, I mean, I'm bummed that she's not here, but this was bound to happen eventually. So
And, and
happy
not
for the years
to
we
not
have her.
to not to tip our hands too far, but she falls under a short list of folks of why are they still here in their current role? Cough, cough, James Ramsey, which we'll talk
Yes,
about in
we'll get
just a
there. We'll get
second.
there. We'll get there. We'll get there. Yes, yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, and I mentioned this in the pod before. Fair, Danny's ceiling is by far of the highest we've ever seen anyone in a Tech women's basketball uniform ever have.
Yes.
And
Ever.
so, considering this is the lawless land of NIL and transfer portaling, where it's like, well, there is absolutely a world where someone that's playing right now in the Elite Eight in the NCAA tournament could be like, okay, we see that, we want that, and they have the tools to make it happen. Tech is, despite being ranked as high as 13th this year in the country and having be literally the best season in the Nell Fortner era and winning 15 games in a row to start the year, uh, it's their teams can still put up a bigger fight, and they're the ones that are still alive in the tournament right now, and they could use a player like Danny Carnegie. As she's
Yep.
still young in her career, she only burned 1 year of eligibility. She may get an extra year of eligibility if the NCAA is like, we're just giving everyone five, a blanket five. So there's a world where she's got 4 more years left if the NCAA goes that route. Um, and it's really disheartening because for the most part we saw the main core between Tony Morgan, Cara Dunn, who was first team All ACC, and Morgan was second team All ACC, Inez Noero, Caleb Blackshear's graduating, Zoe Smith's graduating, but still, nonetheless, we had like the core that had played together for 3 years. They showed at the beginning of this year, like, okay, they've got this on lockdown. Cara Dunn is a stud. Like, you are not going to beat her that easily. And then you add Carnegie to the mix. Like, okay, now you see a future for this year and next year of how this team can get
Mm-hmm.
really freaking good. Um, and
Yep.
now you lose your offensive, the main offensive brain power on the bench, the highest potential player we've ever had. And supposedly these are the names that we've heard might be in the portal. I'm not going to say I know this for sure. This is just I hear some things, and this is just what I've heard. But this tracks considering, in my head, considering that there was a big late season slide, uh, and we lost a lot of games in ways that we probably shouldn't have lost a lot of games. We performed poorly, and I have no clue why, outside of guy getting outplayed in some games and whatnot. But Gabby Grooms, Russ Augusta Naite, Tiana Thompson, Ari Termis out of the portal. You can argue that there are upgrades to be found there, but nonetheless, Russ Augusta Naite tied the team record for threes in a single game this year. Ari Termis was our lone center that was effective in any way, shape, or form this year, just as a tall rebounder. Was she amazing? No, but she got a lot of jobs done. Tiana Thompson outright won us basketball games this year. That's, I think, as almost not as concerning as Danny Carnegie, but it's up there in terms of like, okay, she showed that she's got spunk on the court. She will get low. She was a problem multiple times this year for our opponents, and losing that as a bench option is or as a potential starter next year too. Like there's absolutely a world where
Yeah.
she could go started next year, and that's not there. So the problem here is it's the continuity that you would have told. We probably would have said at the beginning of this year when they were doing really well. Is like, okay, they've got something working. I don't leave it if you hold it together with best you can, and nothing's holding together right now. And that Richmond loss where we were down by a bunch early in that game, I'm worried is emblematic of just where that team ended up from a mental spot as well.
And I'm not gonna sit here and pretend to be a psychologist, but like if you're a Grooms, Augustine, I'd say Thompson, Terrace, maybe, not not a Carnegie, but also not a Blackshear,
Mhm.
Dunn, Morgan level of time and I guess Ziz type of player. Maybe there's some maybe there's some bad juju around. I don't know,
Well,
Jack. You said maybe there's some upgrades to be found there, and I would argue that some of the center forward depth or lack of it the last couple of years,
that's mainly
including
where,
this year,
yeah, that
is
was mainly where
something
I was
where it's
pointing. Yeah,
like may, part of this with transferring, and I listen to a ton of college baseball content. There's a couple places where coaches have explicitly said in interviews where it's like, sometimes it winds up being a separation is for the best, whether it's playing time, lack of development, but in like a we just can't give you the time you
right.
need to develop. And that's something that I think maybe,
If I
for at
had to
least
point
like
to
an
one,
Augusta Nate type
yeah,
type of time, like she just wasn't seeing that kind of time. I think that a year or two ago we might have thought that
right,
that
exactly.
the role would be. So
Yeah, she just wasn't playing in games to a
yeah.
point, like at all. I think there's abs. I mean, if I'm those players, I'm like, okay, I know I can play a lot more at a different school right now, and that's what matters to me in my career development. That makes perfect sense. You use the
Yes.
portal for this exact reason. That is to make sure that you are playing and getting better. If you are not going to get that time at Tech, then that is more than understandable, and try to find that somewhere else. So in that regard, from the they have a life to live and the potential salary to earn down the line, this makes perfect sense, and I do not blame them for that in any way, shape, or form. Um, so yeah, this is just a weird thing to be happening, especially after Nell Fortner got a contract extension this season as well, and folks aren't coming in. So we'll see how the summer recruits pan out. This just sucks to see this happen, but we'll see how this goes. On track and field, they have a new head coach for the first time in what, like 30 years, something like
Yeah,
that.
pretty much. Yeah.
We don't talk about the track and field head coaching that much, just because it's not as pointed
Well,
for us. But Alan Drosky, who has been with the team for over 30 years as well, is the new track and field head coach as of 2025, 2026.
and I was going to say Grover Hinsdale's retirement is interesting in that he was just the men's track and field and sorry, men's side of the house coach. Um, I think that's something that's I would deem unusual, just kind of seeing how the structure for swim and dive has been for
Mm-hmm.
as long as it's been. I would have been kind of shocked if those positions remained separate, just the way that, kind of most universities, most schools have a track and field coach, a cross country coach, a swim
Mm-hmm.
and dive coach, just because there is um, efficiencies to be had there, and quite
Mm-hmm.
frankly, a lot of these teams are going to the same meets, and you hire a staff to kind of do a little bit more of the refinement there. I would have been astonished if it was anyone but the extremely experienced former letterman that we already have on staff, who I would also note of the last, I guess, 10 years, 8 years since I've been watching this program. His women's cross country teams in 2020, 2021, top 25 caliber is probably the
Mm-hmm.
best, most notable team-wide success we've seen from the running sports in recent memory.
Yeah.
Again, lots of great individuals, and don't want to discount that, but maybe there's something to be said about that in terms of maybe more of a rising tide or
Yeah.
a team level success. So,
To put it to perspective of how much of a tech lifer he is, he graduated from tech and industrial management in 1987. He's been here for 40 years on
yeah.
Tech's campus. Like this is, I mean,
Hmm.
close to 50. He's getting close to 50. So this is, I mean, a tech lifer sticking around, which is always awesome to see. Yeah, he's been in
Yep.
charge of women's cross country for 33 years and all of women's track and field and everything for the last 29. So yeah, makes perfect sense why he would be the next guy in line, considering that not usually much turnover in this sport for us, which obviously is somewhat challenged for funding and things like that, just because it's sadly at the bottom rung of the sports we have, and it's only gets half funded. It's a whole thing. So, but hey,
Yeah.
glad to see it happen.
We don't have to get into that right now, but
No,
yes, we are
no,
singing the same tune. So,
yes. Uh, Speaking of people leaving for retirement purposes, Danny Hall announced on last Wednesday, Thursday, that he is stepping down, not retiring. He did not use the word retiring. That was a big note here that he is stepping away from the head coaching role as Georgia Tech's head coach at the end of this season. This is year 32 of Danny Hall's tenure at Georgia Tech, honorary graduate, honorary degree as well at this point. So he is as embedded as anyone in the Georgia Tech community. I've got a piece on from the rumbleseat.com where we talk about, or where I mentioned what he said in the post-game press conference after Friday's game, which is the first time he had the chance to talk to media after making the announcement. Long story short, he'd been thinking about it for a while. He had dinner with his family last week to kind of go over it, say, okay, we're going to do this. Met with Jay Batt, and basically he wanted to get this announcement out of the way so that it's just done and dusted and not a distraction, because I know people have been wondering about this for a few years now. But like, all right, when is he gonna put the cleats up? When is this actually gonna happen? And this is the year that's happening. Uh, the big note here is that he has another big note is that he has talked to Jay Batt about who he wants to be the head coach. He did not say a name in the press conference we had with him, but uh, all the clues point to James Ramsey, considering he's been the associate head coach for 3 years now, 4 years, and it seems like he was kind of building up to put him in that spot. So apparently, J-Bat has not made the final call on that. Probably won't be any announcement until after the season, anyways. But nonetheless, this is now the final year of Danny Hall's career, at least as a head coach. He did also mention that he's been offered a special assistant job after he's done managing, and he said he would be interested in that. So I if I had to put my money on this right now, this is not Danny's final year in some role with Georgia Tech baseball, just no longer as the top man in Georgia Tech baseball.
Yeah, and I feel like that's something that we've seen from high profile retirements in general,
Yeah.
special administrative assistant, and it's not even exclusive to baseball. I mean, Dave Clawson kind of comes to mind up at
Mm-hmm.
Wake Forest in terms of something similar. And a lot of times, like a truly legendary coach who gets to go out on his own regard, unless
Mm-hmm.
they're treated poorly by the next staff, and basically run out of the building. Cough, cough. We don't have to talk about it, but it's I would have been astonished if he wasn't at least involved in some form or
Right.
fashion.
And that's how he put it as well. He's like, it'd be weird if I just was the coach here for 32 years and then just disappeared. Like, I don't think I don't think he kind of,
Yeah.
I think he just wouldn't know how to, like, the people that do something for this long, like, you don't just walk away from it
And
entirely, usually. Like, so
I think that's why it's gone on this long too. I mean, we've
probably,
talked
yeah.
about this looks like it's the retirement tour going past the old stomping grounds. Oh, his sons are graduating. Oh,
Yeah.
maybe we need some fresh blood. This whole pitching thing isn't working out. Oh, we're giving him another pitching coach. Let's see how this goes, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Well,
hey, the
considering,
the man the man has had a great 32 years, and I think my first thought when I saw this was, oh, now it's a win one for Danny in his last year rally around the flag type operation. And
right,
if they want to do that and just win him a natty to go out with, I'd be
that
happy with
sounds
that,
awesome.
Jack. You know,
Sounds
like
no better way to retire. On Friday, so they played Kennesaw State on Tuesday, 115-4 in 7 innings. Just a nice little clobbering of our up north rivals. Friday was I mean, we talked about this with Ben King in our last week's episode, that this is one of the most anticipated series in recent Tech memory, baseball memory. Tech came in as the number 25 team per D1, 19th in the coaches rankings, and then Clemson, I believe, was third. I think third and sixth in those two rankings respectively. So this was a big deal. This is a massive, massive series. On Friday, a lot of alumni came out to the game to honor Danny, because they did a little pregame thing for him. There was at least 20 or 25 on the field with him for the pregame picture, which is really, really cool, and his family, of course. We lost 9-7 in that first game, but I'm not. It wasn't the game where you're like, okay, crap, this team doesn't have a chance against these top teams. Tate McKee pitched well. Mason Patel pitched well. It was just a couple base running mistakes basically that kept us out of this game, and Von Lackey nearly had a homer to tie the game in the ninth. So they put themselves in spots to at least give a shot at extra innings. It just didn't pan out.
yeah. And I think my reaction after Friday was like, oh geez, are we going to lose these all super close and have it look worse than it was? Which was immediately followed by Saturday's game one, um, in which Georgia Tech turned Clemson into glue.
Yep.
Um, it
Yep.
was an 18-2 run rule affair against, again, mind you, a top 10 or 5 team, depending on which rankings you are choosing to look at. Um, yeah, I don't know, Jack. I will say 10 run fourth, and half of those come in after there were already 2 outs in the inning. If I remember that one right off, this is me just
Right.
completely remembering off the top of my head from watching it. But Yeah, I don't know. I've been worried about Brady Jones, and I mean he
He
pitched
did. He pitched
fine.
fantastic. Yeah, and we
Yeah,
did plenty. I
he
mean, yeah. If we
like
only allow two, if Brady Jones is pitching against a top 10 team and there's two total runs scored by the opponent in the game, that's a good sign. That's a
that's a
good sign.
good sign. I would like more of that, please. But yeah, no, I think there's not a ton to add to that other than, I think honestly with it being a doubleheader, it seemed like Eric Bakich just kind of threw a couple of guys out there on the mound just to like sop things up in relief,
Yeah,
almost
yeah.
like the equivalent of putting a, MLB position player out there
Right,
just to
right. Yeah,
wrap
yeah,
things up. I mean, I was looking at ERAs and I saw like 20 and 40 and just
yeah.
just bleak numbers.
Consider it.
And I think
It's
and I
worth noting
think
that
this
this.
being a doubleheader
Yeah, exactly.
played
Yeah,
into that a lot.
yeah.
And the crowd looked great. Saturday number one, there was
Hmm.
energy around it. And when you pan back in for Saturday number two, it was despite being a tight game the whole way. Like I mean, you were there, weren't you? Like, am I
I missed.
speaking out of turn here?
Well, no, it was sold out for game one. I did miss. I didn't. I was gonna go if the game was today, Sunday, which they
Yeah,
canceled for rain. And guess what hasn't happened on campus today? As of 4:24 in the afternoon,
neither
rained.
here in the burbs. So
So that was what stuff happens. Hard to predict the weather, but yeah. I mean, we were up 3-2 in after the bottom of the eighth. Had got two runs the eighth to take the lead, and then allowed two in the top of the ninth, and just couldn't battle
and
back in the
no,
bottom of the ninth.
I have commentary on this ninth inning. A lot of commentary. So I'll keep it brief.
Yes.
Danny was playing the matchups. So in the top of the ninth, we saw, I believe it was three pitching changes, but it might have been two. I know there were at least three pitchers in there. Kept going for the lefty lefty, righty
Hmm.
righty
Hmm.
matchup. And he did that with the bats as well. I can't really be all that mad by the top of the ninth,
No.
giving up two runs. It was an error, which you hate to see. And
Mm.
like me saying, don't commit errors is the dumbest, most reductive and analysis here. So I'm just going to say it's unfortunate. You got to move past it.
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
the hit by so it was a and then a single to send Cam Canarello to third, walk loads the bases, hit by pitch, forces in a run. Like he's attacking the upper corner where you're trying to get, to try and induce like a ground ball type of play, at least to my uninformed or underinformed baseball pitching savantness. I was a
Hmm.
third baseman, so and then I retired in seventh grade. So like it's I'm not Ben King. I don't know what they were doing. But I don't even mind the hit by pitch. It's not like the team's been super erratic. And then,
No.
the play after that, an infield single in which you kind of stick the glove out and try and make the play. I'm not going to be mad at a pitcher trying to make a play on a comebacker just because that's your most, logical way to get the out. Like
Yep. Yep.
top of the ninth, a lot of matchup type stuff. Where it got to me was specifically in the bottom of the ninth, with two outs and a runner on first, instead of batting Parker Brocious, who's batting over 280 on the year, putting in Will Baker, who is a freshman who has been sitting on a Colt bench basically all day
Yep.
because
Hitting sub
he's
200.
not hitting sub 200 in ACC play. He's young. I'm not going to fault him for that either. But like,
Right.
I get that you're going for matchup, but like in terms of high leverage situation in which you're trying to set somebody up for success, it just seems like, man, I would have gone had I had my druthers, had I been in
Hmm.
control, instead of overthinking the lefty lefty, I would have just gone with playing the guy right?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't know if that's I don't know
No,
if
I get
that's
your
too
point.
much to put out there, but again, yeah, you had Will Baker take one pinch hit in the first game, and I'm pretty sure that was maybe some field action after that, but like I don't
Yeah.
know. I
No,
think
I get you.
you play the experienced vet in that
Yeah.
kind of high leverage situation with the series on the line.
Yeah. In general, if we're only going to allow four runs to the number three team in the country, well, I mean, that's a good sign nonetheless. I mean, we had a strikeout count. Riley Stanford had four. Jalen Payton had 8 over 4 innings. Caden Spivey had three
Dude,
in his 2 innings. Caden Campbell got one, and Carson Ballard got two. So that's a lot of
there
that's
there
18
there are
strikeouts.
times
That's
when
18 out of 20. That's so many outs.
there are times in the past where I feel like Georgia Tech's that equivalent would have turned several of these Clemson jams into multi-run meltdown type of innings, and they
Exactly.
were able to pitch out of it. And
Yeah.
and the one inning where you kind of get little bit unlucky and a little bit unfortunate and a little bit of like, what are you doing?
Yeah,
I don't know. We outscored the number 3 team in the coaches poll by what, 13 runs
yeah,
on
it's huge.
on the weekend? Like,
Yeah, if it was an aggregate thing, yeah, we would have killed them. But innings,
yeah,
innings, and how
that's
games are
baseball.
segmented, you sometimes lose two and then outscore them by a crap ton. So,
Yeah.
of note, John Giesler finally got a start in the game. He played first base in game one, which is awesome to see. And he hit a homer in the game. Uh,
Mhm.
Connor Schaus got his first homer of his career. That's awesome to see as well. Parker Broch has got a homer in the series, which is good to see as well. That game two game, BJ Bailey pitched for Clemson, and he was awesome in 6.2 innings pitched. So I hate that you're
Yeah.
gonna find that happen. That's just gonna happen. Yeah, Sanford and Payton covered 6 innings, which, considering in a doubleheader situation, that's awesome that they were able to set themselves up after winning by a bunch to still have the bullpen arms to be super competitive in game three. I mean, it's really a shame that they didn't pull this out, because we had, in terms of the game plan, this is as good as it can get in terms of playing a series against a team like this. You only use two pitchers in game one, smoke them in game two, and you have the what you need from your bullpen fresh to possibly get game three, and they damn near almost did. So, just in terms of overall of a series, this was very very promising. There was absolutely, I have no reservations in terms of the potential this team has. Which, as you see here, as I see you put, quote, I think this team can and should be in the mix to be a regional host, and I don't disagree with you on that front.
That being the goal or that being the outcome of this year would be awesome. I think it is something that they have the talent to do. I have enough confidence in the pitching to say that that is the upper tier result of a season. But I mean, at this point, just keep doing what you're doing. Like
Yeah.
if
No,
they
this is
can
working. It's
if they
working.
can
Yeah.
hold serve the next month in which their schedule turns into somewhat to extremely scary, depending on you got Mercer coming up, and then again for those who have heard us read us like several times, Stanford, Auburn, Cal, Georgia, Miami, Auburn, Virginia. And
Woohoo.
Miami is somehow, according to most numbers, even or worse than Pitt at the moment, which is weird for Miami, but it's in
Yeah.
their ballpark and they're talented enough that they could figure things out. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's going to be a tough month.
Gonna be very very interesting. Just some stat numbers. Tech's got the best batting average in the ACC right now, second best in Power Four, number four, fourth in Division One. We got the most doubles in the ACC by a pretty sizable amount. Wake Forest leads in most offensive categories, but we've got the doubles down. Sitting
They also
generally,
play in a bandbox, Jack. So,
fair point. Uh,
yeah.
we're about above average in pitching, which a lot of that has to do with Tate McKee and Mason Patel and Jalen Payton. We are Jaden. His name is so confusing with the L's and the D's. We are 22-6 overall, 8-4 in ACC play, which is good enough for third. That might shrink to fourth or a tie for third because Wake Forest hasn't played yet today, and they could tie our ACC mark if they win today. Uh, Mason Patel, despite allowing some runs for the notable amount of runs for the first time all season, he's still by far got the lowest ERA in Power Four, second lowest nationally, but the guy who's at top has far fewer appearances than him, still qualifies for the leaderboard. He was named the number one reliever in the nation by Division One baseball this week, which absolutely makes a lot of sense. Andrew Burris, after with now 16 doubles in the year, I think is number one in the country. That he was third when he had 13 before yesterday, so I think he may have crept to the top there. So yeah, Tuesday versus Mercer. Then we go to the Stanford games are at 9 o'clock, 5 o'clock, and 4 o'clock Eastern, respectively, this weekend. So not unwatchable for us here on the East Coast. I'm just gonna let y'all know now. The Georgia game, as y'all probably have heard, that is in Truist Park on Tuesday, April 15th. So tickets are plenty for that. I would highly recommend going. And the
That is that is going to be a hotly anticipated game. I mean,
Yes,
if
yes.
things keep trending like they are, maybe they do sell 40K for that.
That'd
Jack.
be awesome. Georgia is like destroying everyone else in terms of number of home runs. They've got like 15 more homers than the next best team in D1, so that's scary to think about. Also,
Yep.
this game benefits Children's Healthcare of Atlanta, so it's for the kids as well. All right, on to softball. They are 21-14, 7-5 in the ACC, good enough for seventh. They moved up a spot despite playing zero ACC games this week. They did what I guess they're calling the bye week tournament, where they played number 13 Oklahoma State twice, and then Penn State, who has a losing record overall, yesterday. This is a I think this is the probably the most contentious discussion we will have. They beat Oklahoma State 6-4 in game one, which is nutso after losing to Mercer 8-5. I mean, talk about back and forth. They lose 7-1 the second game to Oklahoma State, which they're number 13 in the country. That was probably going to happen at some point. And then they beat Penn State 10-0 in a run rule. I think this is how you utilize a bye week, which is you beat a damn good team who's going to be guaranteed a tournament spot, basically, and then take care of a team that won't be in the tournament. If you're going to add extra games to your calendar, this is how you make use of them by winning one, two.
Jack, you're completely right about the weekend,
Yeah,
but that completely excuses the fact that they lost to Mercer in their own building midweek. And
not
Mercer
good.
is not good.
No, they're
And
not. They're not.
you got to tee yourself up with this big elaborate discussion of how great Oklahoma State is great. Penn State probably won't make the tournament, and you got to beat them.
Yeah,
But Mercer is not very good. These are not games you want to lose. And I think, if anything, it shows that this softball team, as currently constructed, is very highly volatile, very
yes.
high variance results. I
Yeah,
think that's something that we see in terms of how do we describe it against Stanford? The bullpen just bleeding, runs away slowly. It's absolutely something that this team has the, I don't know if ability is the right word, propensity
yes.
might be better to
Yeah,
do. And it's something that you see in that Mercer game. It's a team that has lost games against comparable teams and teams that, maybe you'd expect them to beat. I would argue, if I were going to say, blind resume this, that the win over Oklahoma State is probably of more value than the loss to Mercer, simply because softball, much like baseball, is a weird sport where this kind of stuff happens.
yeah.
See Georgia Tech losing to Mercer twice, or not Mercer, Freudian slip,
Marshall.
Marshall
Yep.
twice in
Yep.
4 games, and then proceeding to destroy everyone that came past them for a month. But um, yeah, at the end of the day, this is not a okay, now rank the Jackets type situation. I
Not
think
yet. No, don't rank them yet.
Massey Massey's a good a leading not a leading indicator, but somebody who has earlier updates to his data, and I'm still waiting on the nitty-gritties to see how it changes mine. But
Mhm.
he slots Tech in mid 40s nationally. And yeah, I think that really makes a lot of sense. Softball's a top heavy sport.
Yep.
But that being said, there's a wide middle, and Tech just seems so firmly entrenched in that wide middle. That said, we're kind of tipping the hand towards this coming week. You get Georgia Southern and then Syracuse. If you want to make noise in the ACC, and you must, because there's going to be somewhere between probably 6 and 9 bids ish. So, maybe Tech's right in there right now, but you have to be in front of a Syracuse.
Yep.
You just have got to be in front of a Syracuse. 2 out of 3 or a sweep is something that I think needs to be the goal for this week here. And I can say pretty confidently now that I think this team's solid and in that middle, and deserving of maybe that the start of that conversation. But
Mhm.
just so high variance, Jack. I mean, the if they had beaten Mercer, I'd be, in full-throated agreement with
Right.
this is how you utilize bye week. Because yeah, from Thursday to Saturday, they did.
I'm looking at the box score for this Mercer game, and I can tell where the not the mistake. I get why they would have done this. They started Madison Furnace in this game. You
Hmm.
if you're
Hmm.
playing Mercer, if you want to get one of your non-starters some innings, you do it against an opponent like this.
Hmm.
I totally get that, and that makes perfect sense. In one inning, she allowed 4 runs, none of them earned. This was a defensive mistake. These are defensive mistakes. They got these runs in, which does not help, of course, whatsoever. Sydney Watts only got an out, allowed an earned run. Kenzie Norton had to clean up and pitch 3.2 innings, and then Doyles had to pitch 2 innings. So obviously the pitching plan went to crap very early on in this game, which none of us want to see, and the bats just did not back it up basically, which is not good. Like you gotta hit against a team like this. Like 5 is in theory is enough to beat a team like Mercer, but wasn't this time. So, yeah, in that case, your point is valid, absolutely valid. Did they do enough to win this game? No. Did they have a plan to win this game? They had a plan to at least feel like they should have won this game, and it didn't happen.
And I think and this is now reading between several layers of subtext. But I think the fact that they are in a spot where they can, you know, have Madison Furnace starting midweeks is a good sign on depth. It's a good sign on
Yes, yes.
getting other folks in the mix. It's just an example of how highly volatile this team is, I think,
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
Yep.
Like it's harder to absorb some of that because you are not Oklahoma where you could just be like, well, we'll just score 20 runs and,
Right.
see
Yep.
what
Yep. Yep.
happens.
The bats
You know.
aren't at that level. No, the bats are doing a decent amount, but they're not at that level quite yet.
Yeah.
Nonetheless, I mean, as you mentioned, 40s in Massey. This is a level of progress we were not, I think, eyeing at the beginning of the year, but they're making the progress they need to make. Thursday,
Yep.
I think, was kind of the ideal game in terms of like formulaically. Brilliant start by Sophia Voiles. Norton cleans up the game, and it worked really well against the top ranked team. That goes a long way. Friday, we got shut down by Ruby Malin on the circle. We used 7 pitchers in that game. We used everybody in that game, which happens sometimes. And then Saturday, Penn State, they're not good. Stomped all over them. That worked out. Of note, of
And
note. Go ahead first.
I was gonna say, and for a point of comparison, just because I don't, memorize all of Massey's historical end of year rankings, the 2022 team, the last one to make the tournament, they had slotted in right around 40th. So I think that is
Okay.
a
Okay.
totally fair comp for a very different looking team, but results
Yes.
wise
Yep.
similar, if that makes sense. Like
Yep. Yep.
it's very
Yep.
different, and they play very different, but the kind of feel I think slots in with that. So if you're feeling like, hey, this they're good. They got some, some ziz there, and they do, So
Well, and here's where I'm going to offer more hopium. This is the most ranked. This is the first time they've won 3 ranked games in 10 years. That's never happened in the Eileen Morales era, and this was the highest ranked win in the Eileen Morales era. So, uh, best. I mean, in terms of best wins, this is of the best wins they've had outside of probably those Georgia wins out on the road a few years ago. So big. That's I mean, yes, variance. It happens, but it's big. They play a lot of games. It's softball. They play a lot of games. You're gonna have a stupid one in there, and you're gonna have an amazing one in there as well. So, uh, as you mentioned, Tuesday versus Georgia Southern, weekend versus Syracuse. Syracuse is near the bottom of the ACC right now. They're second to last at 2-9 in conference play. So yeah, that please win. Please win. That's just no
and
other
and
way around it.
and that's a team that maybe has had our number in ways that we might not expect, but that's also been in a chilly on the road situation.
Yes.
So, let's
I'll add some perspective here in terms of the standings. We're 7-5 right now. There's 3 teams at 7-5. Duke and Virginia. North Carolina's at 7-4, so they got a game left to go. Stanford's at 8-4. So between these 5 teams, there's a lot of ways we can mix and match our way from the 7th spot all the way to the 4th spot in the conference after this weekend. I don't know who all they're playing, but all that to say, 3 wins will go a long way into getting us out of this middle area right now in the conference. So okay, that was a good 30 minutes. So let's hear from section 103.
Yes, as always, this podcast is brought to you by Section 103. Section 103 is the best place to find Georgia Tech apparel. And last week we talked about the Legends of March. You should still be going to check out those shirts, Mark Price, Kenny Anderson. But another thing, you should also check out our 3 new hats. The men's and women's team, they're in the postseason, so why not release some hats? They are 3 color, 3 panel deals. They are white in the back with gold and navy in various combinations on the front. I would definitely recommend checking that out. As always, free shipping on orders over $80 every day. Use our code FTRS for 10% off. Tell them we sent you. Check them out. New plug on Instagram at Section 103 or at section103.com.
On to tennis, where both the men and women were facing very, very good North Carolina teams. Generally, just don't like playing a team in tennis if they come from that state, which only worked out in 1 of 4 combinations. The men lost 4-1 to number 6 North Carolina State, and then lost 4-1 to the number 1 team in the country, Wake Forest. The women beat the women's Wake Forest team. They are not ranked. They beat them 4-0. Very nice. And then lost 4-3. Oh, that's annoying. To number 11 NC State. That's a good matchup.
Yeah.
Women's tennis came in at number 29 in the country at that point. Let's focus on that one. That's the lost the doubles match. So I
I
assume that
think my
was
first
the
note
problem.
is just sad face. So I think that's pretty emblematic.
Yeah.
No, the ladies lost all 3 doubles matches, at least
Mm,
from what I could tell on the live stats, and then lost the even courts in singles. Um,
okay.
I, hey, That's tough.
Yeah.
I would say that NC State, interestingly, I think before like 2 or 3 years ago was actually like the one North Carolina NC State women was like the one North Carolina school that was like, okay, yeah, we beat them like 20 years in a row. This is sweet. And they have just been so good for like 3 straight or 4 straight years at this point. It's
Oh
probably
man.
closer to five, and I'm just getting old and don't want to admit it.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I mean this is a it's a tough slate for either, particularly the men on NC State side, but the women are tough as well. It's in their building. I don't know that there's a ton you can really add there. Maybe you'd like to see some doubles, but neither three of those
Right.
courts were particularly close. The only one that went to three in a loss was Gabriella Bradfoot of NC State over Given Roach on court four. That was the last to wrap up as well, going into a third set. But that third set was a 6-1 loss for Given Roach. So like, how much can you really say? Like it was close, but not not the baseball result from last night level of quite that close, I would say. So
Right. Yep. Makes perfect sense there. Going forward, the men have Virginia on Friday and then Virginia's Tech on Saturday. Women are on the road as well. They'll face Louisville and Notre Dame on Friday and Sunday. And I believe that was this was the last weekend of matches at home for the men's team as well. So that'll be it for their time on campus for now. Swim and dive. Okay, this was big stuff here. We finished 25th with 24 points, which feels like progress considering how we've done in the last couple of years the NCAA swim and dive meet or championships. The biggest note, the 200 medley relay with Saka, Zivanovic, Romero, and Orderici finished 14th, which is just 6 points. But they got the team record of the 200 medley relay, which is far and away and a very important marker, I would say, for this team that has not been able to perform that well at this specific swim meet, and they came out with their team record. That's very, very good to see.
yeah, I think the flowers go to Max Fowler on this one, but it was very refreshing to see Georgia Tech swimming multiple relays too. That didn't make it onto our shot sheet,
Mm.
but a couple different events where they got different guys out there to Federal Way, and I don't know. 25th seems about exactly where the coaches had them, where kind of us in our divining had them.
Hmm.
I'd like to confirm this, but I'm pretty sure that if everything held similar to where it was yesterday when I was watching, I believe I hand counted them into seventh in the ACC, which kind
Hmm.
of similar to their finish. There's a lot of variance that comes from only having 16 scorers at NCAA's, if that makes
Right.
sense.
Yeah.
So a lot of that depth doesn't really come quite as through as it might in an ACC meet. But
Hmm.
I don't know. We'll talk kind of similar to last week, how we kind of hand waved away some of the basketball stuff. We'll talk about this in the off season. I think we kind of need to get our heads around the coaching staff changes there as well. Certainly of note moving forward there. But dare I say, some of our best success and a
Hmm.
big reason why Tech scored 25th is because of the diving. So maybe promoting the interim who is the diving guy is a good call. We'll leave that to the future
Yes.
to dive a little more into.
Yes. Haha. Dive a
And
little more into. Uh, yes.
yeah,
Max
I'm a
Fowler in
funny
the one
guy.
meter. Max Fowler in the 1 meter got sixth overall, and then in the 3 meter he got
Yep.
12th overall. So, not the NCAA title we were praying for, but nonetheless, still a very good showing. I mean, about as good as we've ever done in diving too. On the national stage. So this is not Max's final year. So who knows what 2025 brings or 26? Jesus, it's 2025 already. My God.
And scoring points in relays for a team that we've talked about needing more depth. That's a good sign. Let's do more of
Yes.
that.
Yes.
If you can recruit to that and get a couple more to fold that out, that's how it, we are worlds away from a anywhere like top 10, top five type of finish. But if you can get just one, two more guys, score some more relay points, you're talking about, you know, comfortable upper half of ACC type of position. And
Yes.
hey, top 25 team's a nice place to be. So.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. On to our miscellaneous stuff on Survivor. Eva Erickson from Club Hockey Team a couple years ago, still on the show. If you're not watching the show, that's fine. I would highly recommend watching this last episode. She had a very impactful moment, which was of the best in show's history, where kind of the game and her autism met head on, and it created a very, very beautiful moment in the show, even to the point where Jeff Probst cried, which has never happened in the 48 seasons of the show. So it's brought a lot of good to autism awareness and just what her story has done for a lot of families. I've seen some stories about families actually kind of realizing, oh, wait a second, my child seems to have similar see things like that, and they've been able to kind of families have been able to figure out what's going on with their children going on in the world as well. So that's been, from a medical standpoint, this has been a very positive week for that community in general. So the show has done a lot of good, which is awesome to see. So yeah, would recommend watching that. And if you want to read my recaps, those are on our website as well. Club lacrosse, they went down to Gainesville, lost 14-8, and then they've got
They're ranked 10 in the country right
okay.
now.
Yeah.
I just realized apparently MCLA puts like lines out for the game, like
Oh my
over
God.
under and goal differential, which is very helpful for framing these games because
Yes.
Georgia Tech
Yes.
has played a very hard schedule to start. I think they've got 4 total losses, which feels like a large number. I think in 13 or 14 games
Hmm.
for a Georgia Tech lacrosse team. They're ranked 10th. Florida was 5th, and the line was 3.5 um, with a goal scored of 22. So they nailed the goal scored. UF came out a little bit
Yes.
ahead in differential. I I guess I got to check these every week now, Jack. I feel like this is really helpful. Is this an offensive
This
juggernaut of a
is.
game? I'm not a lax bro, you know.
I know.
It's exactly as one would expect it to turn out, just a little more in UF's favor than one might expect.
I
So,
know. I love
um,
it.
really interesting to see. And I will plug check out the MCLA site in general, but their weekender kind of led with some quotes from Coach Lovick. As well as just Georgia Tech related stuff. So I think that was pretty interesting to read as far as club sports goes. Lacrosse really presents a unified front, and they also have a ton of really good polls, content, live streams, things like that. So if you're at all interested, definitely go and check that out. That is, man, I think it's better than some of our non-rev sports in terms of coverage. I'm not gonna lie to you, Jack.
Yes,
Um,
absolutely. Literally, yes. There's no, yeah,
yeah.
yes, literally, yes. Uh, yeah. Okay.
I could
Go.
keep rolling with the last update here. A pride and joy of my heart, the Georgia Tech Swim Club. That is CCS Nationals this weekend. Only results through Saturday so far. They're out at Arizona State for I think the first time that Nationals has ever been out
Yeah,
on the West Coast.
yeah.
Georgia Tech hosted for gosh, close to 20 years in a row, and then they've been to Ohio State and a couple other
Did it go to Penn State?
Greensboro's. Uh, they were in Indiana last year.
Okay.
They've been to Ohio State. That was 2019. They're
Right.
supposed to be in Greensboro, 2020, but
Well,
we don't need to get into those
nope.
those fun memories for me. But yeah, no. Through Saturday, Georgia Tech is in first place. They have 372 points. They're in front of UVA. Georgia Tech and UVA are probably over the last 10 years probably the two best teams in the sport, men's and women's combined. Um, it's very hard to win the national title if you only are good at one of the two. I don't even think Liberty, who's currently leading the men, field a women's team, period. So they're not even in the top five overall.
Yeah.
But yeah, UVA leads the women. Tech is 24 points behind them in fourth. Tech is in third on the men's side, about 70 points behind Liberty with Purdue in between. So yeah, overall, pretty good showing on both sides, but really, really tight scoring. Jack, I know I posted
Yeah.
some of the numbers in here, but the top 4 teams on the women's side all being within, 24 points of the leaders. That's kind of remarkable, I'd say, and a
Yeah.
100 point spread in the top 5 on the overall score. That's pretty tight meat. So I'm sure today I'll have some movement. So
Absolutely.
much
I'm
too
still.
early to call it a win.
I know. I know. I'm just very proud of the fact that the one banner that's hung of a championship that I won, technically, is
Yeah.
up in the pool at Tech, which is. Now, did I do well? No, I swam one race and it was a really bad really bad 100 fly. But okay, I went out with a bang. Did I get it? Did y'all do rings? I never got a ring. Was it?
So I actually engraved 2018 and 2019 on the inside of my class ring because we did not
Ah,
do we talked about rings, but it was so split in terms of some people were like yes, and some people were like absolutely not. And then
oh
when
man.
we were like, what if we just let people have the option to buy it? And it was just a whole mess. So I was like,
I should probably
you
go
know,
back and make myself something now that that is the one
yeah,
championship that I have to my name. So, anyways,
uh,
that's awesome to see.
yeah,
Hey, I'm just glad
yeah.
we're beating Virginia in swimming. I don't want to
Hey,
elaborate. I'm not gonna elaborate on how we're beating them in swimming. We're just beating them in swimming. That's just what's
and
happening right now.
And the crazy thing too is Florida State's right in third, so top three, all ACC and very familiar
Good point. Very good
swimming
point.
pros. We swam down there all the time too when I was in school, so
That's
definitely familiar there. And shout out Cal Poly in fourth. I'm pretty sure their team was invented out of whole cloth in like 2017 or
oh
2018.
wow.
So good job building a program, guys. But if not, they had never come to the East Coast before that year, so
Yeah,
that's cool to see. But
good to know. Good to know. Just gonna
mhm.
note right around the corner. I mean, we're 2 weeks away from this spring game on campus. The Saturday of Master Saturday, but we are 2 weeks, 2 Saturdays away from having Georgia Tech football happening in Bobby Dodd Stadium. So I mean, yes, it's just a spring game, but always good to see folks come out for that, and the guys do appreciate it. Like that matters to them to see people out, even for a scrimmage game. So that's the big highlight coming up before the to hell with Georgia baseball edition 3 days after that. So big stuff coming down
Yeah.
the line. I think that's all we've got. This is a solid hour. We did it again, Jake. Another perfect episode.
We've never missed, Jack. We've simply never missed. The day we do, it'll be the first. No, I'm kidding. It's we do this because of our listeners, and as always, if there's anything that corrections, errata, things that you think that we should talk more about, we are always happy to hear that. You can email us at fromtherumbleseat@gmail.com to let us know. Fromtherumbleseat.com is the best place to find this as well as our written work. Keep an eye out later this week for some postseason divinations from the two of us, maybe in the baseball and softball realm. We're still ironing that out, but in the meantime, we've got plenty of great content for you to take a look at there. You can find us on Blue Sky at ftrsblog.bsky.social. Just search FTRS blog. You'll find us. It's the same picture as we use. You can find Jack there as well, Jack Nicholas. You can find me there at Jake Grant 98. Akshay's got 1,000 followers, so clearly people are following him. But
Game on Paper goes a long way. Game on Paper has done very successfully on Blue Sky. Please follow us there as well.
going with tradition, I won't mention his exact handle, but you can find him there too. You can find Section 103 at section103.com or at Section 103 on Instagram. You can find us on Instagram at From the Rumble Seat as well as YouTube and Facebook with that handle. And you can find this podcast wherever fine podcasts are distributed. Until we talk again, good night, good luck, and go Jackets.